What is up, everybody, and welcome into the Sactown Sports Recap. Following the Sacramento Kings 117-110 victory over the Atlanta Hawks right before the new year. What a game. What a game. This one definitely kept you on your toes, definitely tested your I won't say your loyalty as a fan, but man, it's been a big conversation this year just with how the Kings have lost so many games this year, seemingly every single time they can't knock down shots. It feels like it continues for the entirety of the game, and they just can't figure it out. But tonight, that was not the story. They struggled from three to start this game, 0 of 8. That's a story we've seen before. But the difference was when Trey Lyles and Malik Monk checked into the game, started hitting perimeter jumpers. You also saw Alex Len and Davion Mitchell return to the rotation. I thought both of those guys gave really good performances tonight on both ends of the ball. Man, what a roller coaster. I did not expect to be doing this post-game live stream and have it be after a Kings victory. It really seemed like this one just wasn't going to go the Kings' way. They have not won in Atlanta since 2019. I just had to make sure, double check that I had that note right. 2019 was the last time the Sacramento Kings went into Atlanta and won a game. You know, Atlanta is kind of one of those, I think Matt Barnes talked about it on the halftime show. Atlanta's one of those towns where, people like to explore. They like to sightsee at night, and it's got a wonderful reputation of having things that millionaire athletes would be attracted to. And so, there's Miami, there's Atlanta, there's Chicago, New York, all those places tend to kind of fall under that umbrella. And Atlanta's been one of those places that's tough for the Kings to find victories. But tonight it was a little bit different, though it did look like this team did come out pretty sluggish to start the game. Like I mentioned earlier, once they start hitting shots, I mean, things just magically end up falling into place. And I would tell you that it starts on the defensive end, definitely. They got some stops. I mentioned Davion Mitchell checking in for Keon Ellis tonight. He was a healthy scratch with the DNP. He's been playing pretty much the last 15, 20 games of the season. Nah, not 20. Though I guess we're almost 30 games in. It's been about 20 games. Keon Ellis has been in the rotation. Just a DNP from all intents and purposes tonight, from what it seems. Yeah, interesting. I thought Davion played really well, though, with the minutes that he was given. I do think Trae Young is a pretty favorable matchup for him. A smaller guard, somebody who really can't outmuscle him. Davion's really strong, especially for his size. Trae Young's not going to be able to push him around, and is also Davion's going to have the foot speed to be able to stick around with a guy as quick as Trae Young. So it was great to see Davion get some really quality minutes tonight, and it'll be interesting to see if that continues moving on past tonight, as the Kings will play the Memphis Grizzlies on New Year's Eve. That should be an interesting matchup. Not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but just to see De'Aaron Fox and John Morant kind of go head to head. Those two have kind of had I wouldn't call it a rivalry, but fans have just kind of always gone back and forth with where those two kind of fall in the young point guard conversation. But I thought tonight was a really just a really fun game to watch, and good to see the Kings kind of find that kind of win, because it has felt like all season long, if the Kings aren't hitting shots, they're not going to win games. And they kind of live and die by the three, and pretty much all season long they've been dying when the shots aren't falling. But tonight was kind of the first time I can remember where the shots weren't falling and then just kind of started to. And once they did, the faucet really couldn't be turned off. Unfortunately, Kevin Huerter did go down tonight as well. I believe that they said that was a hand injury, which is interesting to note. He did hurt a finger that kept him out. I think it was against the Mavericks, I want to say, on a road trip earlier this season. So interesting. We'll definitely monitor Kevin's health. It's a left hand. He only played 9 minutes in his return to Atlanta. HB also. I didn't see any sort of injury listing for HB, but he played 11 minutes tonight. 0 of 2 from the field, 2 points, no rebounds, no assists. I don't know if that's just a straight up benching, or if something went wrong with HB that we didn't see, but. Definitely thought it was interesting and definitely of note that Chris Duarte ended this game tonight. I thought played really well. Definitely has been a physical defender all year long, but definitely I would say tonight was one of his most positive nights. I definitely think Duarte found kind of found himself a little bit tonight. Wasn't there was, I would say there was a couple moments where offensively he does get a little bit dribble happy and it puts him into some unfriendly positions. And this offense really isn't built for people outside of De'Aaron and Malik to dribble the ball. But I thought Duarte gave good minutes. I was surprised that he was in the closing lineup, but we saw at the end there that challenge that Mike Brown had on Trae Young. That was really good defense by Duarte. I kind of thought that he did touch him a little bit right before the foul was called, but he did a good job of kind of getting off of him. And then Trae Young tried to get a little sneaky in there, and it was really good defense by Duarte. And love to see Mike Brown kind of have the smarts to finally smarten up really with his challenges. It's been really rough to watch Mike Brown in his challenges this year, but good to see him nail that at the perfect time because this team definitely needed this win. After falling to Portland the other day, losing tonight would have been a tough pill to swallow. Then you got to play a Memphis team that feels a little regenerated after getting Ja back. That would have been a scary potential 3-game skid that you avoided here. And now you have some positive momentum heading into that Memphis game on Sunday, which is going to be a tough one. Like I said, Memphis has played really well this season when Ja has played. They're 4-0 when Ja Morant plays. He just missed their last game against the Nuggets with an illness, and they got absolutely destroyed. So it's a real Jekyll and Hyde with the Grizzlies this year. If Ja plays, they're a team that needs to be taken really seriously. And if he doesn't, then they're just a lot less scary. So I'd imagine Ja will play. And that's gonna be a tough one. There's no easy stretches in the Western Conference, but that we'll get there. We will not have a live stream after that game on Sunday. I will be out and about, and I assume everybody else will as well. That game is a 5:00 tip on New Year's Eve, so that'll get over at around 7:30 or 8, and I figure everyone else will be out and about by then. So there will be no post-game live stream on Sunday, just so everyone is aware. Yeah, how about this, Manny? Great point here. De'Aaron Fox with a career high 8 made threes. I thought, the shot is real, okay, for everyone who's been questioning, and I'm talking about myself, De'Aaron's jump shot and how it's developed. It's definitely kind of came out of nowhere, but for him to shoot 50%, I think he ended 8 of 16 tonight from 3. That's going to bring his average over 40% on the season on over 8 attempts. It's just insane how well he's shooting. And tonight, like, I just don't. After watching it fall like it did tonight and how it did the other night in Portland, I just think that his shot is here to stay, at least for this season. I don't know, if he can continue this, for the rest of his career, but it doesn't look like that percentage is going to drop anytime soon, in my opinion, with how well he's shooting the basketball. It looks great. He's feeling confident as hell. You see him talking to Chris Webber on the sideline tonight, saying, "Oh wow, oh my goodness." I just feeling himself from the perimeter, and good on him, because if that shot is legit, that's how he's at 30 points per game, and if he can continue to build on that, it's going to be he's going to be a problem. And that's also how he can extend his career as well. Like if De'Aaron can add a jump shot, I mean, that really lessens the reliance on his athleticism and his speed, really, which is what makes him so great now. If he can develop a 3-point jumper, that's how he can play till he's 37, 38 years old. Like, you see a guy like Mike Conley right now who, he was really similar. He used to really depend on his speed a lot. And you see his ability to just kind of be a little bit of a more traditional point guard and somebody who can hit perimeter jumpers. It's extended his career. And, Vince Carter is also somebody who really changed from being a really paint centric player to more of a perimeter game. It's really big. And if De'Aaron has really found something with his 3-point shot, it just means a lot, not just for his game now, but again, just like his game for the future. And if you're a Sacramento Kings fan and you think De'Aaron Fox is one of those guys who's going to try and be a one franchise guy for life, you love to see it, because that just means that he can really be impactful for years and years to come. I thought, Alex Len was helpful off the bench. I've been waiting for Alex Len to come back. JaVale McGee, just, again, he gives some good, he gives some bad, but some of the bad is just really erratic. You see him turning the ball over. Sometimes you just see him really mess up in defensive rotations. Tonight, Alex Len, you just see he's always in the right place at the right time. He has really good verticality, just like Domantas Sabonis. It's clearly something that this team just hammers into their bigs. I don't even know if Alex Len, how many fouls he picked up tonight, if any, because I just thought he did a really good job protecting the rim. I feel like I'm always standing for Alex Len, but let me see how many fouls he had. He did not have a single foul tonight. And I just thought he was great. They were plus 11 in his minutes for you plus minus people out there. It was just clear to me that when Alex Len was out there, they were a better team, and that's really when they made most of their runs. When they made the run at the end of the second quarter, Alex Len was in the game, and I believe also in the third quarter there, Alex Len was in the game. When they made a big run, his size is really something that this Kings team needs. I mean, size has killed them all year long, and I just think Alex Len adds a huge body out there that this team needs. And you see him getting tons of back taps and stuff for offensive rebounds. That's just not something that anyone else gives them. I thought JaVale did a little bit of it, but again, I just feel like Alex Len is a little bit more, little less chaotic is more what I'll say. This too, short cake. Absolutely. We finally saw some fight. Definitely was something this team needed. At halftime, I noticed Sabonis and De'Aaron. Sabonis kind of had his arm around De'Aaron as they were walking to the locker room. And I was going to tweet out, like, it'd be nice to kind of see some of that internal leadership that Mike Brown's been kind of complaining, frankly, about in the media. He wants the change to come from within. He's like, I yell at these dudes every single day in practice for a year and a half now. Like, I think they're tired of, or are getting tired, or will eventually get tired of hearing my voice. It'd be nice if one of these guys steps up and says something, says, y'all, we're losing to the Atlanta Hawks, who are not even in the play-in tournament in the Eastern Conference. Like, we're a 5 seed in the West. We're trying to be better than we were last year. We just lost to the freaking Portland Trailblazers. Are we really about to lose to the Atlanta Hawks now? Like, no. I would love to hear if in Mike Brown's post-game press conference, if something like that happened, because there was a clear switch that was flipped in that second half, and they showed up ready to play. And, maybe it was the early start. Maybe the 4:30 start did kind of throw them off. It's the earliest start they've had this year. Now that they're on this little East Coast road trip, maybe it's as simple as that. But whatever happened in that second half is something that needs to happen more often. Yeah, that dagger, that I'm sorry, that challenge was really a dagger. Like, that would have been a big swing there. I think that was at 110, 114. So if they would have not challenged that was an and one, if I'm not mistaken, would have made it 113, 114. And that just kind of changes the entire complexion of how that game down the stretch goes. I mean, who knows what ends up happening at that point. The Kings would be one stop away or one miss away, I should say, from being down the stretch and just having it be a back and forth. I don't know how that game would have ended, but definitely glad that it went the way that it did. And I thought, that's Mike Brown, my guy. I know you ended the game. The first thing you did, you were like, let me hop on this Sactown Sports Kings recap and see what Chris has to say. Thank you. That's why you save your challenges for the fourth quarter. It doesn't matter. I don't care if, Mike Bibby versus Kobe Bryant part 2 happens and, your player gets elbowed in the face in the second quarter. Okay. You got to let that thing live, because I promise you, there's going to, if the game is close, there is going to be a call at the end of the game that is going to be like, it could change the complexion of the game completely, just like you saw tonight. You need to have a challenge for moments like that. That is exactly why it's not like a timeout. It's almost better to end the game with your challenge. Like, I would much rather him save it for the last 2 minutes and not have a situation where he needs to call it and just holster it than risk it on something in the second quarter that really isn't going to impact the game at all, because there's so many other things that can happen after that play that can impact the end of the game. Like, there's nothing more important than making a call at the end of the game that can swing it like that. And that was definitely just a massive swing right there, in turn of events, because who knows how that game goes if that's different. Yeah, and shout out De'Aaron Fox, 15 threes in the last 2 games. I also saw Kings PR put out, let me see here. There was a number on De'Aaron Fox and Buddy Hield. Here it is. Fox is now just the second Sacramento King in franchise history to make 7 or more threes in consecutive games, joining Buddy Hield, who did it 3 times, 2019, 2021, and 2022. So De'Aaron Fox and Buddy Hield, the only 2 Kings in Sacramento history. No, I'm sorry, in franchise history, not even in Sacramento era history. In Fox and Buddy Hield, only 2 players in franchise history with consecutive games of 7 or more threes. Who would have thought De'Aaron Fox would be in that? And you wouldn't have names like Keegan Murray. I'm sure Keegan at some point will join that club. I'm actually really surprised he didn't get a part of it after having his 12 3-point game the other day. But, that's just, again, another note of how De'Aaron's shot has kind of came along, these past couple months or whatever, this season even. It's just crazy. I think it's totally legit. Him and Luke Laux have been working on it for, a year and a half now. And you're really seeing it come together. I mean, he's hitting tough threes. It's not just like he's wide open, though. That is also a thing that he's doing now, is hitting a much better percentage of his wide open threes, which is, I think, the kind of the first step in becoming a good shooter, is hitting down the ones you need to hit, and then of course hitting down some of the tougher ones. And he's definitely knocking down the open ones nowadays. And he's even up in the difficulty on some of his. You see him taking some step backs. You see him taking some off the dribble step backs into the corner, which is an incredibly difficult shot. At least for me, I was always terrible at taking anything from the corner. Of course, these guys are on a much different level than I was. But yeah, I mean, his three is. I don't know how much of it is just confidence at this point, because again, when you're shooting the best that you've ever shot, sometimes that the hoop will feel like the ocean, like you're shooting into the ocean. And I don't know how much of it is confidence and how much of it is, again, just like his improvement. But man, it's just been crazy to watch, because the leap is just it's nothing I've seen before. Like, let me pull up his again, I know I did this the other night, but his 3-point percentages throughout his career did not indicate this level of leap being possible. He went from last season being 32% on 5 threes, and his previous highest 3-point attempt was 5.5 in 2020, where he also knocked down 32%. He's now at 8.6 attempts per game, shooting 39% coming into tonight. Again, he shoots 50% tonight. So that percentage is now over 40% on over 8.5 threes per game. It's crazy. It's just crazy. And that's why you see him in MVP conversations nowadays. That's why you see him, taking another level. And you see the other night in Portland, him put up 43 points. The reason why he's just clearly taken a different level is because, that mid-range jump shot that he just looked for all last year, that little free throw line jumper, he's just all but eliminated that jumper from his game and made it all threes, which is what modern basketball tells you to do. It tells you that layups and three-pointers are the two most efficient shots in basketball when it comes to points per possession. And that's what De'Aaron has pretty much trimmed his game to. I mean, it makes sense. You could argue it's maybe it's the Monty McNair influence on him. Monty is obviously from the Houston Rockets regime way back when James Harden was running the show. And that's really what they turned their game into. If you look at the shot plot, which is or the shot chart, if you will, after all those Houston Rocket games, every single shot is in the restricted area or, in the paint or from beyond the 3-point line. And it feels like that's pretty much what De'Aaron has turned his diet into, with the exception of, late end of game, end of quarter situations. It's pretty much all runners, layups, and 3-point shots. And man, sometimes it's really that simple. And it definitely helps that his percentages are as good as they are, because if they're not falling the same level, who knows how we're feeling about his season. But right now, as it's falling, I'm going to tell him to keep shooting and shoot more. Because we don't even see this team at full tilt. Again, Kevin Huerter struggled tonight before he went out. Harrison Barnes has been up and down. Keegan Murray's offense has been up and down. Even Malik Monk, to an extent, has been up and down this year. But man, I mean, De'Aaron has just been all gas all year long, and it's driven this team. I mean, we saw the games where De'Aaron Fox was out early. It was not pretty. Really cool also to see C-Webb sitting courtside. I know him and the franchise, I wouldn't say have a weird relationship, but it just doesn't really feel like C-Webb. You see Peja around all the time. You see Vlade around all the time. You now see Mike Bibby on the broadcast. You see Doug and Bobby Jackson on the coaching staff. Brad Miller's always sitting courtside. C-Webb's always just kind of been aloof. And, I think there's a lot of reasons for that. I think some of those reasons are no longer around, but I definitely think that it's really important for the Kings to kind of have C-Webb as an ambassador for this team. He's definitely the biggest face of the franchise that's still going around today. And I think it's really important for him to show his face at nights like tonight. I'm assuming he lives in Atlanta. I know he used to obviously work for TNT with Turner and all that stuff. I know their headquarters are in Atlanta, so I would assume that's why Webb was at the game. I think that's his grandchildren. It could be his kids. Not too familiar with that situation, but it was just really good to see C-Webb sitting courtside. And I thought it was cool that, apparently De'Aaron was talking, not trash to him, but, again, was like, oh my gosh. And, was hyping himself up. I saw C-Webb's, the kid that was with C-Webb had a C-Webb jersey on. So it was good to kind of see C-Webb not just kind of there. I think C-Webb was there pretty much in some neutral attire, but good to see him repping the Kings in some sort of way. Because, I think it's important to have that kind of stuff. It's really good to have, when Shaq used to be the Kings minority owner, just kind of having him always talk up the Kings, I think is it's really important. And you kind of see Matt Barnes, I guess, is the best version that the Kings currently have. Him having his All the Smoke platform, being on ESPN and NBA Today and stuff. I just think it's really important to kind of have people bringing up your franchise, because the Kings have, I think, entered the national conversation a little bit more than what you would probably expect them to. But I still think it's kind of important when everyone's talking about the Lakers and the Warriors and, all these teams to just, have somebody who's always got the Kings at the front of mind. Interesting. Okay, Shortcake. I'm not going to look into it. I'm just going to take your word for it. But yeah, allegedly those are his twins, born in 2017. So shout out Webb for bringing up his kids as Kings fans. Then, Beamer Beams or Bentley. That's a good point. I did hear this. Drapes did say Fox was chirping at Trae Young's dad, not C Webb. I'm sorry. I think I did see. I did see on Twitter that he was talking to C Webb, but I did hear Drapes say that he was chirping at Trae Young's dad, which makes sense because I know De'Aaron and Trae Young came up, through the college or high school ranks at the same time. So they have a pretty good relationship. I believe Trae Young was also at De'Aaron's wedding. I'm like 85% sure that that's the case. So I know they're pretty close. So I'd imagine it was all in good fun. Something I also thought was interesting, and I was ready to make a big, huge deal about it. I couldn't find it the moment exactly on the broadcast, but I definitely heard in the first half when things weren't going well, and it was going to be part of my whole big internal leadership speech that I had fully prepared in my head that I guess I'll just have to holster for some other time. But Katie was saying like, hey, me and Kyle sat in the shoot around session and in the film session, and what we're seeing right now is not what the Kings coaching staff had drawn up. So I heard that, and the first thing I thought was, well, there's the confirmation I needed. These guys just aren't out there executing. Like the game plan is everybody, of course, Mike Tyson, everybody's got a plan until they get hit in the face, of course. But there's just been too many times this year where the Kings are doing weird things, not taking advantage of matchups and just, things that Mike Brown will harp on all the time, playing physical, playing defense, moving all the way, make sure you're running all the way down to the corners, weird things like that. Like it's just, sometimes the Kings don't do it, or they'll go into like ISO heavy ball or fall in love too much with threes. And it's like, there's no way this is what Mike Brown is drawing up. And you kind of heard Katie say it today on the broadcast, that this was just not at all what they had been discussing all morning and shoot around and all that. So that definitely, again, tells me that there needs to, like, the coaching staff has clearly delivered a message. It needs to be the players that are saying, guys, this is not at all like, if we execute what coach is telling us to do and it doesn't work, guess what? That's not our fault. Our coach is going to get fired. There'll be bigger issues. We can go to coach. We can watch film. We will all as a collective team know we did our job, but our coach is messing up. You're not like, if you're not even giving yourself the chance, like it's just, I don't know. It's got to be really frustrating as Mike for Mike Brown. It's just, I can't. They just need somebody internally to say, we're not doing our jobs. Like we all heard the same message. We all heard the same thing. We need to do it. Like, just, hey, we know you're there. Let's go out there and do it. And I see you're not doing this. Hey, let's be okay. That's why you can't do this. Let's be vocal about it. Tell me why. Maybe I can hedge more. Maybe I can try and, shade off a little so I can help you out. And, there needs to be a more open line of communication. And it feels like they just kind of let things burn in front of them and then almost need, which I think is a natural thing, of course, but it just feels like they need to be better of being present in the moment. But, tonight is not the night to talk about that because they actually figured it out tonight and turned things around. So we can talk about that on a different night when they don't figure things out. Feels like tonight needs to be a lot more celebratory. We're heading into the new year. Let's take these good vibes. 18-12 on the season. They moved back to 500 on the year on the road. They have also moved to 7-1 on the season against teams below 500. A number and a number I'm going to pay attention to all year long because, of course, you have to. Again, with how difficult the Western Conference is, you've got to take advantage of the nights that are easier, and the Kings have done that all year long. So focus on the good. Let's move on to our 3 stars of the night. My first star, it's really tough. I'm going to give my first star to Trey Lyles. Trey played incredible tonight. Season season high 19 points. I want to give Trey the 2 stars of the night. That's why I'm grunting. But 19 points, season high. I think he was 4 of 9 from 3, if I'm not mistaken. Let me pull up Trey's numbers. 4 of 9 from 3, 7 of 12 from the field, 6 boards. I just thought Trey brought it on the offensive end. He was the spark plug next to Malik Monk, who also had a great game and definitely deserves a shout out. 15 points, 8 assists for Malik. But Trey having 19 and just the burst of offense that he gave this team in that second quarter, I thought was huge. The Kings needed somebody else as well to contribute, and Trey was that guy. We've talked about how important it is for the Kings to kind of get a third guy going, and Trey was that third guy tonight. Great on him, and hope to see him kind of build on this because he's kind of had a bit of an up and down season as well. 2 stars is going to go to Domantas Sabonis. I wanted to give Trey Lyles 2 stars, but it just honestly, Domas is this is why Domantas Sabonis and Rasay Fox put it out on Twitter, I think a couple weeks ago. We can't overlook what Domas does just because it feels regular and it might not look spectacular. I can't overlook the numbers, and the numbers are just insane. 25 points, 10 boards, 7 assists, 12 of 17 from the field, 1 of 4 from the free throw line. I'm gonna call you out on that, Domas. But man, it's just you can't put a value on just getting easy buckets. He dominated Clint Capella, Onyeka Okongwu. It didn't matter who they put on him. It was the second night. It was a little bit different than his domination against Portland, but it was the second night in a row, or second game, I should say, in a row, where it just felt like they had no answer for him. I mean, Sabonis, I just got the final box score here. In the first quarter, Sabonis only had 2 points. Second quarter had 10. Third quarter had 12. Let's see here. I'm sorry. Third quarter had 6. I'm sorry. This is all messed up. And then fourth quarter had 7. He was once he got it going, he was just consistent all night long. I mean, yeah, once he got it going, it was no stopping him. His physicality was just too much for the Atlanta bigs. Those guys are a little bit more vertical guys, and can't really deal with the strength of Sabonis. I thought he had a great night. And of course, the 3 stars is going to go to De'Aaron Fox. Career high 8 threes on the night. I don't know, man. I mean, if he's gonna continue to play at this level, this team can go really, really far. That's about as much as I can say on it right now. But yeah, he's really playing some of the best basketball, if not the best basketball of his career. It's kind of a shame that, yeah, I mean, it's really funny. I was just about to say this. I wasn't thinking about it necessarily from Keegan, but it's just they can't get that consistent third guy every single night. And it felt like last year was always somebody. But De'Aaron is just playing out of his mind right now. And it's just not something I saw coming. Like I definitely, I was all for De'Aaron Fox All-Star. I knew the kid had crazy talent, but I did not think he would be this good this quickly, and be able to lead this team. But he is so talented, and he's done it in a different way this year. Like the two-way ability is real. He finished with 4 steals. I know it was kind of a garbage steal at the end of the game, but 8 threes, 4 steals. He even had, I think he finished with 8 assists for Fox tonight, just cause 50% from the field. Yeah, and he only hit 2 2-point shots tonight. I'm looking at it. He was 8 of 16 from 3, 10 of 20 from the field. So he was 2 of 4 from 2. He did it all from the perimeter tonight. I've never seen De'Aaron live that way. And of course, 3 of 7 from the free throw line. They're both of them. De'Aaron and Domas have to be better at the free throw line. I will, if I got to be mean, I'll say that because them to combine 4 of 11 at the free throw line. it's going to cost them. It's going to cost them a game that they're going to need at some point this year, whether it be a playoff game or just a game that they need at the end of the year. There's just no way that you can continue to shoot this poorly and have it not affect you at some point here. Sorry, as you get a nice little side view. What up, y'all? Sorry, I had to switch up my cam there. Yeah, I mean, but nonetheless, De'Aaron is just playing absolutely ridiculous. I'm gonna continue to be mean about the free throws though. 31 points for Fox, just continues to get to 30 every single night. That's all that I've got for tonight, unless anyone's got any interesting. I'll do a couple questions if anyone's got any long-term questions, since this will be the last live stream of the year. If anyone's got any questions, any trade questions, any thoughts on what we should do with guys we should bring in, any rumors people are seeing, anything, just kind of opening it up here. I did see something earlier before we get out of here. Yes, I also agree. Thought that was a good rotation. Interesting. JC My King is what I'll call you. I hope we trade Barnes, maybe Davion, and a pick for somebody nice. Yeah, it'll be interesting to kind of see. I mean, these are, of course, the two names, and Kevin Huerter on top of that are the names that a lot of people are throwing out there. It'll be interesting to see what HB's value is. I wouldn't be opposed to keeping HB as well. I know a lot of people are kind of sick of him at this point. I was kind of first in line on that train, but I think he'd be a valuable bench piece, man. Like, he does do a little bit of everything, and I do think in a tighter role coming off the bench, I wonder if he would feel more of a sense of urgency where, when you're in the starting lineup, you kind of have a little bit of comfort. You're going to probably play the first 6 minutes of the game. You're probably going to get another run, second quarter, maybe mid-second. And then, second half is kind of open based off of your play. I'm just thinking maybe a little bit of a mindset flip for HB where he comes off the bench and feels like, oh, this game's already going. I need to hurry up and make my impact, or else I'll get pulled and coach will just forget to put me back in, because there's no guarantee when you're coming off the bench that you're going to get put in for that next rotation. So, I do wonder if moving HB to the bench might be something that might be good for his career long term. The problem is you are paying him a pretty penny to come off the bench, but I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think Kevin Huerter makes a little bit less sense off the bench. Kind of feels not overqualified because he doesn't really create his own shot. But it feels like he would just kind of be wasted in the second unit. Like, if he's just a really good shooter coming off your bench, you can pay less for that, I think is where I would land. It's just not a really good value to be paying a guy. I think Kevin's making $13 to $14 million. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to pay a bench shooter that much money. You can kind of get a little bit lesser of a shooter than Kevin, but also for a lot cheaper. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense to bring a guy like Kevin off the bench, where, again, HB kind of can do a lot of different things if you want to pigeonhole him into one thing, or if you want him to just kind of be a bit of a Swiss Army knife. I think that role makes a little bit more sense coming off the bench than it makes with Kevin. Let's see. Yeah. Can anybody see the beam? I tried to look outside before we started and didn't see anything. Ooh, James, what a fantastic question. Unfortunately, not this very second, but my New Year's resolution for this show is, maybe, I'm not doing a show on Sunday, but the following, I think it'll be whenever the new year hits. After the new year, I'm going to bring this post-game live stream onto Twitter Spaces for this very reason, so that we can get people to call in, so we can get people's thoughts after the game. I definitely think that'll be a cool addition to the show. y'all need to hold me to it. I'm going to try and get this thing. It shouldn't be hard, but I'm going to try and get it onto Twitter Spaces as well, so we can kind of have a multi-audience kind of experience here. And yeah, I think that you guys calling in would add a nice little element and layer to the show. Interesting. Against some teams, I think Sabonis needs to go to the 4 and maybe start Len. That's actually something that during training camp on media day, we talked with Alex Len, me and Whitey did. And Alex mentioned that during training camp, they were experimenting with that 2 big lineup. When I think my direct question to him was about how Kevon Looney really killed the Kings in the playoffs and just kind of how they would adjust to it. And I assume Alex was told this from the coaching staff. Maybe I read it wrong and he was just projecting his own thoughts onto it. But he did say that, they're going to run more 2 big lineups to kind of combat that. And I wonder, if, I wonder, the question is, what kind of teams would you do it with? Like, of course, Minnesota has Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert. And you could say, okay, it makes sense to try and match their size with some size of our own. But you could also argue the complete opposite, that a team like Minnesota, if we remember last year, that's the game where Trey Lyles went to the 5 because Sabonis fouled out. And we saw how valuable it is to be able to pull Rudy Gobert out to the perimeter and have him have to guard Trey Lyles on the perimeter, not be clogging down the paint. So it's actually, I don't know. It's like maybe against smaller teams, it makes sense to kind of go big. I don't know. Mike Brown gets paid a lot more than I do to figure those things out. So, but yeah, definitely would be something I've been waiting to see all year. And really, I don't think we've seen any of Sabonis at the 4 all year long. So I think that's super interesting. Yeah, interesting here. Airborne musician. Seems Brown could stand to make a change to the starting lineup. HB and KH, Kevin Herter, are hardly contributing. This is definitely a really hot button topic right now. I don't know what the answer is because Mike just seems adamant to not bring Malik Monk into the starting lineup. I think that's a conversation, its own whole separate conversation that we can talk about. Mike's kind of stuck in that way, whether or not we think it's a good idea or not. It really doesn't matter because Mike is just firm that he's not going to bring Malik into the starting lineup. So the question then becomes, who is it? Because Chris Duarte hasn't really played well enough to earn a starter spot. Are you going to start Keon Ellis? I think that doesn't really make a lot of sense. HB, you could ask the same thing. Like Trey Lyles had a really good night tonight. Maybe that's something that could spark a lineup change, but I don't know if Trey has been consistent enough. I do think Trey is a little bit more of your traditional 4 than either HB or Keegan is. So maybe that gives you just a little bit more size and strength, I guess. But I don't know if that's really, swinging anything in a positive direction. It just might be different for the sake of being different. I don't really know if it's better. So to me, I mean, frankly, it's kind of the Kings' depth has let them down this year. Hasn't been nearly as good as what I think we all expected it to be. So a little bit of a similar story as during the playoffs, where it did feel like, hey, we can I think it was the same people. I think it was literally HB and Kevin. And I think I said literally the same thing I just said, where it's, okay, who do we put them in for? Or who do we put in for them, I should say. And, I think Malik makes sense. Again, I think Malik Monk in the starting lineup does make sense in a world, but you also have to weigh that with the negatives of it, which is, you then lose his scoring pop off the bench, which is really nice. Like, it's really good to have your starting lineup have the firepower it does, be able to put up 20 points in the first 6 minutes of the quarter, and then Malik Monk comes right in and is like a firecracker, and he keeps the scoring going. Where if you throw Malik in that starting lineup, well, maybe he's part of that first 6-minute flurry, and you don't really ever get, it just kind of dies out as the quarter goes on. You don't really keep that consistent fire. It just kind of Malik, I don't know, they get tired as the quarter goes on. It's just not as comfortable and as easy as it seems right now. It feels really natural for Malik to just kind of come in, check in at around that 6-minute mark, and just instantly impact the game, put the ball in his hand, and he's ready to go. So I definitely understand why Mike Brown feels that way, but it's also really tough because when Kevin Huerter is putting together the performances he is, it's just Malik is just staring right back at you. As somebody who also, I think his contract, I don't know if it should play into Mike Brown's decision, but if I'm Monty McNair, I'm telling him like, hey, dude, like Malik, I'm trying to re-sign him past this year. Maybe, you might want to look at what it might look like if he entered the starting lineup because, you know, who knows? Who knows what the future is going to hold for Malik and this team? But it might be something you might want to kick the tires on because we're probably going to have to pay him 17, $18 million a year, which is definitely starter money. So I don't know. It's something that definitely is a hot button topic, and something's going to give eventually because, Kevin Huerter and Harrison Barnes are in every single trade rumor you can find that involves the Sacramento Kings right now. So either they're getting benched or they're going to get moved. But there's definitely going to be, I would be shocked if by the trade deadline, which is now, oh man, I mean, we're getting closer and closer. We're like a month and a half away from the trade deadline. Something's going to happen. Let's see here. Let's see here. Oh, I'm so confused. Can you see Terrence Davis coming back? I just saw TD signed. I know he was in the G League with the Portland Remix. Excuse me. I don't believe TD would come back. I just, I don't really know what he would bring this team. Like he's a really good shooter. But isn't really bringing anything that this team needs. Like if they're going to bring in people, feels like they should probably bring in a backup point guard or maybe like another, long forward. That would make a lot more sense to me than a guy like Terrence Davis. Is Sasha on the trading block? That's super interesting. I don't know because I don't know what Sasha's value would even be to the open market. I don't know how known of a quantity or is that what I've never actually said that phrase out loud. I don't know how known of a thing Sasha is around the NBA. Like, obviously here in Sacramento, we heard so much about him being the EuroLeague MVP. We watched tons of his EuroLeague film. We fell in love with him. There was the whole commodity. Thank you. There was the whole, recruiting pitch and everything to get him over here. So Kings fans kind of got really emotionally invested into Sasha. I just don't know how much stock, what the Milwaukee Bucks think of Sasha Vezenkov and how much value they would give, just because obviously they haven't spent the amount of time scouting him that the Kings have. So they don't really think about all the things that Sasha could provide them. They would probably just know from what they've seen this year, and what they've seen this year is a guy who is incredibly unafraid to shoot the basketball. I mean, I know he's known. I know for sure he is known around the NBA. Like, I know people know of his existence, but it's a matter of how good they think he's going to be. Like, it sounded like this offseason, the Kings were convinced that this guy was going to come in instantly and be like a 7th or 8th guy. Paying him the money they paid him, which is essentially what they paid Trey Lyles. That's a guy that you expect to get some serious minutes, and a guy, who's a high level bench contributor. And I don't know if other teams around the league would view him in that light. I don't know if they would view him as a 7th or 8th guy. They might view him as like we might play him. He might be our 8th or 9th guy. I mean, the Kings aren't really. He didn't play tonight. Like, he's not playing every single night for the Kings. So I don't know how much value he would really have in terms of, he definitely couldn't like headline any package for anything significant. So I don't know. The Kings, it's a big question for the Kings just in general is how does the rest of the league value guys like Davion? Who knows? Some teams might view him as, an underdeveloped talent that, with the right style of play could definitely play a lot better in their system, and they see some defensive potential. They might really like what they've seen out of Davion, but it doesn't work here in Sacramento. Um, you know, Same thing with Harrison Barnes. Like, I think, the Kings have used him as a starter. I don't know how many leagues across or how many teams across the league view Harrison Barnes as a starter. I don't know how many view him as a seventh or sixth man. I don't know how Harrison Barnes views himself these days. So, it'll be really interesting just to get an answer on these guys' value, because I definitely think it's going to be a seller's market. It seems like there's tons of names out there, and there's also tons of teams that seemingly want to be in on some action. Like the Lakers are definitely one of those teams. The Warriors are definitely one of those teams. And I think the Kings are absolutely one of those teams. So it's going to be interesting just who's the first one to bite this trade deadline. All right, y'all. It has been a blast for this 2023 year, but unfortunately, our final Sactown Sports Kings recap of the year has come to an end. I will see y'all in 2024 when the Kings take on the Charlotte Hornets on the 2nd of January. Again, no live stream on Sunday after the Grizzlies game. Y'all have a fantastic night. Enjoy the beam, light that thing, and enjoy your New Year's weekend.